Well, Coach, game week, it's here. Does it feel real to you yet?
Yeah, welcome to game week. It feels very real. We've been grinding. It's been a long summer, starting in July and then getting through August and things like that. And it's finally game week. I'm excited about it and looking forward to getting out of town and starting to play some games.
And as you prepare for this opportunity against the national champs, defending national champs on Saturday night, what are you watching for the most in practice this week? What do you hope to see from your team that'll give you confidence going in there?
You know, the big thing is just energy, enthusiasm. I want it to look like it's game week, like we've been practicing and, you're always talking about we have a game. Well, it's finally here. It's finally time. And just seeing the guys excited to play, playing physical, running around, having fun, bringing the juice, having a lot of energy, and just day by day getting better. That'll be the big thing.
And I know you've been soaking up wisdom from a lot of coaches for basically your whole life, starting with your dad. But have there been any people that you've reached out to ahead of this just to get some last-minute crib notes or advice?
I just talked to people before we started training camp because most of the people I know are in training camp right now, so you don't really want to bother guys and things like that. But I talked to a lot of people before we started up, got a lot of good advice. I could always talk to my dad now he's retired and things like that. And his main thing is just be you. Just no matter what it is, good or bad, just be you. Deal with it how you would deal with it and keep moving forward. So that's basically what I do every single day, just be myself.
Coach, how important has the transfer portal been for making this team going into the season?
We use the transfer portal to our advantage as much as possible. First thing I'll say about transfer portal, we're trying to keep our guys out of it. So we're constantly recruiting our guys and giving them reasons to stay here. And the community is a big part of that. They feel the love here, so they like to be Bulldogs and things like that. And then we use the transfer portal kind of like free agency. If we have a hole we have to fill, something happened, we use it in that way. But it's definitely a tool we're going to use. It's available, so we're going to use everything that's available.
Coach, you guys are going into a hostile environment. I mean, it's probably going to be electric over there. How will you guys deal with that? I mean, especially your communication with Mikey Keene. Have you guys been practicing a silent count, stuff like that?
Definitely. I love hostile environments, to be honest with you. I think that's the magic of college football. You get 110 in a stadium, and it's loud, it's rocking, you can't hear. You want it to be as hard as it could possibly be. That's just the way how I think about it. We did a lot of stuff with noise. We played crowd noise over the speakers and things like that, and with the coaches having to communicate with the players with the new technology that we have in the helmets and things like that. But we definitely have a lot of tools we can use. We'll see exactly how loud it is, and when it gets loud, and we'll go to the tools that we need. But we've definitely been practicing that.
Morning, Coach. How would you assess the overall health level coming out of fall camp going into this game?
Yeah, I was expecting to get that question. So a couple of little things. So Josiah Freeman, he has a hamstring injury that's kind of nagging with him right now. So we'll see about him. He's kind of week to week. Not going to say he's out right now, but we'll make that determination a little later on in the week. Couple of long-term injuries that we have, unfortunately. Charles Rimlinger hurt his lower body, and he's probably out for the season. That happened last week in practice. Feel bad for him. Such a hard-working guy. We nicknamed him Trigger. Coach Coyle did that because he's so loyal and dependable. So we'll be without him. And then local kid Brandon Ramirez, we lost him earlier on in training camp. He's a long-term thing. Hopefully we get him back towards the end of the season, but right now he's going to be out for a long period of time. And then trying to get Spomer back and Eddie Fanua, those guys are still dealing with their injuries, and that's kind of week to week also. Those happened in the season last year and then in spring ball, so it's kind of when their body responds to when they're strong enough to go out there and play, they'll be able to go out there and play. But those are the main guys that report about.
When you come into a game like this, double-digit underdog on the road, do you approach it at all with a mentality of what do we have to lose here?
I never think about losing. I think about it's 0-0 and we breathe the same air, so why not go out there and try to win? But college football is hard. I mean, every game's going to be hard no matter who we're playing, and we just stick to our plan, play hard, play Bulldog football, and let the chips fall as they may. So that's kind of how I look at it, but I'm not a negative guy. I'm more a positive guy, so I think about trying to find ways to win.
Hey, Coach, I'm assuming, have you coached at Michigan in the past?
Never have. I worked at Central Michigan, but we never played against Michigan.
Have you heard from other coaches? Have you gotten any advice or just anything about the environment? What have you heard?
Well, we have Coach Baxter here who worked there, so he knows a lot about the stadium. He knows how the wind comes in there, and I know a lot about Michigan weather also. It's you can get all 4 seasons in one day. So we'll see how it is when we get there and things like that. It's going to be loud. I mean, it's 110,000 in there. I know some people say it's not as loud as you think and all that. We're anticipating it being loud. You know, as the defending national champions, they're going to be celebrating the championship, all that stuff. So it'll be loud in there. So we'll be ready to go for a hostile environment.
As you approach this game, obviously, pulling a big upset like this is difficult. But what is it at night? Is there something that gives you some peace and some confidence heading into this game? And maybe what's something that's kind of keeping you up a little bit, something you're worrying about?
First games always keep you up at night, no matter who you're playing, because you got to expect the unexpected. So you just have the first game jitters, those type of things, and you're always thinking, what if this happens, and all that stuff in the middle of the night. So you have to deal with all that. But I love our kids, and I like our coaching staff. We have a lot of experience as a coaching staff. Our players bought into our whole system, our schemes, the way we teach them, coaching changes, all that stuff. These guys have hit it head on. So I'm excited for them to get this opportunity. To me, why not us? This is kind of how our program is built. We're ready for these type of moments, so we're going to go out there and go fight.
Coach, obviously everyone knows they're celebrating the national championship win, but there's also a lot of changes with this team. A different coach, different quarterbacks. They're competing right now. What's preparation been like for those two guys?
So college football every year, the roster's going to change, and they still haven't decided on who their starting quarterback's going to be. So we've had to practice against different styles. We've been doing that since last week. So we'll see what happens during the game. We're anticipating seeing both, and we're ready to see both. But they're going to do however they're going to do it, and then we're going to have to adjust. And you get ready, you see all the stuff they did last year, and then you get in the first game, and then there's going to be new wrinkles because they obviously have good coaching staff also. So they're going to do things that are good for their quarterbacks and their O-line and their running back and all that type of stuff. So we'll see how it goes. It's a game of adjustments. It really is. And it's not halftime adjustments. It's going to be series-to-series adjustments. If we wait till halftime, this game will be over. So we'll be adjusting as we go.
Throughout fall camp, I know your defense has obviously said they're focused on physicality and being tough and keeping up with Michigan. How are they able to adjust? Do you see that happen play by play during camp?
We want to impose our will. That's every single week. That's just kind of how we're built around here. It's kind of the grit of the Valley. Same way the people of the Valley are is how we are. Obviously, Michigan thinks the same thing. They're a physical football team. They put it on film. They're fundamentally sound. So, hey, we have the same motto. Let's go out there and see who has it, who's going to take it. And I'm excited for it. I think our guys play physical. We have a lot of full pad practices. We did a lot of live tackle to the ground stuff. So it's time to go let the chips out there and see how they fall.
We've talked a lot about the environment of the Big House, but we've heard online a lot of Fresno State fans are planning on going to this game. They're making the trip out there to Ann Arbor. What does that say about the support that this program receives?
Red Wave, baby. Red Wave travels. We go anywhere, And it's the way it is. So I expect to see some red. They'll probably make the red sit way up high in the stadium and all that stuff, but we'll see them and we'll hear them. So we're just going to go out there and make them proud. Love the Valley. I love the support here. I love everything about being here in the Valley, and I know that some of the loyal fans are going to be there, the people that are able to be there, and then people at home. We're going to hear you at home too. So we know you're there in spirit. So we're excited and ready to go for this thing.
Coach Skipper, how many times have you played the fight song from Michigan in the last week of practice?
It sneaks up every now and then. So when we started preparation on Tuesday last week, we played it during stretch, and then we did it on Wednesday. Then it's disappeared, and then it's going to show up again tomorrow. So I'll play it a couple more times, and then hopefully we don't have to hear it too much during the game.
What's the motivation for that?
Just getting their minds right on the opponent. We always try to do something to get their minds right. Try to shock the system, if you may. So that's why we just did the music that way. And it kind of shocked. Everybody's like, whoa, what is this? Because they're used to their music, hip-hop and all that stuff. So had to change it up a little bit.
And the national opportunity, you're on NBC, 4 o'clock p.m., facing the defending national champion. How do you feel about Fresno State having this type of platform for 3 hours on the first Saturday of the college football season?
It's awesome, right? You know what I'm most excited about is how many people are going to be like, what's that green V on the back of the helmets? That's what's awesome to me. They're going to get to know where the Valley is. They're going to know what Fresno State's all about. They're going to know about our great leadership, our new athletic director, our school president, the Valley, the farmers, the agriculture, all the hard work we put into this place around here, not just athletics, but community-wise. And it's just, I think that's the big thing, getting Fresno on the map. That's the big thing. So I'm excited for that.
Coach, what has been the most hostile environment that you've either played in or coached in throughout your career?
Great question. You're making me go back in time here. So as a player, my senior year, we opened against Ohio State. And I just remember, the biggest thing I remember is when we went out to warm up, the stadium was already packed. And I was like, dang, I've never been in a game where warm-ups was already, everybody was sitting in the seats. So that was, as a player, that was the biggest, most hostile environment. I will be honest with you, we've had some very hostile environments here at Bulldog Stadium when I've coached here. Like, we played Oregon, open with Oregon, and it was rocking in there. And unfortunately, we didn't win the game. We had some costly mistakes in there. But that's probably one of the loudest games I've ever been in, where the crowd was into it. And it didn't matter if we were on offense or defense. They were loud no matter what. And it was electric in there. So just Bulldog Stadium, when Bulldog Stadium's rocking, it's one of the most hostile places to be in.
How's it going, Coach? What's it like knowing that this game also has historical implications too? That you got on two great programs with their first ever black head coaches competing against each other on Monday, knowing that this game has bigger implications than just another non-conference matchup.
Definitely, that's always a discussion, right? And we're trying to get to where that's a normal thing. It's not a story every time. So I think a lot of African Americans, me included, are appreciative of the opportunities, and we need to take advantage of the opportunities when we get them. And fortunately, we have two African American coaches that'll square off on NBC national TV. And my goal is to hopefully that's not the story. It's not a question. It's kind of the norm. And once we get to that point, it'll be awesome to get there. So hopefully that happens. But he's done a great job over there, Sharon Moore, and we'll keep it. We'll keep it going, and hopefully a lot of guys behind us will be able to get the opportunity as well. So excited about that.
Oh, for sure. And obviously Michigan has faced some off-field controversies with the whole sign-stealing situation and stuff like that. Do you think from your end that quite possibly having to deal with those on-field distractions could affect their mindset and can give you the competitive advantage for Saturday's matchup?
I have no idea. That's stuff they have to deal with. I'm just worried about our team. As long as we're ready to go and we're ready to go in there and fight, we'll be fine. The other side of that thing, we'll find out. I have no idea what's going on with that.
Oh, for sure. And then national televised audience and everything else, what do you think is going to be viewers' takeaway when they see Fresno State Bulldogs play?
I hope they see some kids and coaches that compete very, very hard. They're mentally tough, handle adversity throughout the game, before the game, and everything like that. And then just are physical, fly around, hit you in the mouth, impose your will type kids. That's what I hope everybody sees once they watch the game.
Hey, Coach. You kind of got this question earlier, but just for you, being a player here, playing at Ohio State, playing in big games, kind of, that Coach Hill rejuvenating the program, during your time. What's it mean to you to be coaching this team at Michigan this upcoming weekend?
Definitely. I'm very blessed, man. I get to follow Jim Sweeney, Pat Hill, Jeff Tedford. Those guys are legends. They're legends. And then I get to follow all three of those guys. And as a player, I've been around all three of them as a player because Coach Sweeney recruited me, and then my freshman year was with him. Then Pat Hill came in, and I played for him for 4 years. Coach Tepper was offensive coordinator for Coach Sweeney and for Pat Hill. So I've known them for a very long time when I was just a teenager. And then to be able to coach with Pat Hill, be able to coach with Jeff Tedford, the lessons I learned are invaluable. They're priceless. So that is huge for me. I love this university, sincerely love it. And I know what it takes to win here. I know how the kids need to get prepared for it, and I'm excited for it. It's like Coach Hill said in his very first meeting with the team. He said, anybody, anytime, anywhere. And he said we were going to play the best of the best, and that's why you come to Fresno State. And we're going to get that opportunity this weekend, and excited for it.
Coach, I want to ask you a bit about some of these guys on the depth chart that have moved up. I want to start with R.J. Regan. I know he missed quite a bit of camp. What did he do in a short amount of time to get the nickelback job?
He's a smart kid because our defense isn't easy to learn, and he's come in and he's been able to function pretty good with it. I like him. He's physical. He has size. We're always trying to figure out who's going to replace Big Mo, right? And he has the best skill set to do that. So we'll see how it all plays out. But excited about him. He dealt with some injuries, but he's been able to practice here lately, and it's been good.
And you've got Kavika Bumgarner slotted where Johnny Hudson was last year. What strides has he made since last season?
Big guys. You look at that old line. Look at their size. We need big guys. So as many big guys we can throw out there, we're going to throw out there. So all our size will be put to the test in this game. And Kavika's a hardworking kid. He gives his all the time, and I'm excited to see him play.
And one area we don't get to see too much of practice is special teams. Just curious if you could share a little bit of that in general. And looks like you got Malik handling returns. If you can break down the special teams a little
Yeah, so Malik's handling returns. I know you're probably getting at snapper and the punter, and that we have not decided on yet, but we have to obviously this week, and we'll get to that. But it's been healthy competition. It's been good. We're in a good place, but we're just not ready to announce that thing yet. We'll get to that towards once we get a little closer to game time. But our special teams are in good hands. Coach Baxter, he's been coaching special teams, seems like forever. So we'll be ready to go. We're excited about it. We have good competition going. We have good players to choose from. So it's good. We're in a good spot.
Coach, with such a veteran group that's been around each other for such a long time, does that give you guys an advantage going into an environment like this because these guys have been together so much as far as the veteran level of this group that's been together?
Definitely. And, every single season when you get to training camp, you have to build that family atmosphere again because there's always new guys that come in, especially with the portal and things like that. So we have to mix the veterans with the new. And once we get to that point where we feel like we're a brotherhood, then we're ready to play. And I think that's really happened throughout training camp. We've done a good job of having the coaches talking, and we've had some guest speakers and things like that. We've done some exercises. We always have our Bulldog Olympics, which really brings the team together from a non-stressful standpoint. And I really like where we're at. I think we're a true family. Our coaching staff's done a great job with the kids, and I'm just excited because I just know we all love each other, and we want the best for everybody within the room. So all that doesn't matter if we don't go out there and show it on Saturday. So we'll see where we're at.
And then on more of a technical question, with the green dot now being a part of the college football level and having the linebacker or whoever's going to be with the green dot, what has it been like working with that now, kind of what was been at an NFL level side of thing, and now you're getting it here in the college game?
Definitely. I think it's exciting. It seems like college is always trying to copy off of what the NFL is doing. And to be able to communicate for the amount of time before a snap is crucial. I know Coach Coyle has been working with it, and Coach McCann, they've done a lot with that thing. It all started with them learning which button to push and all that stuff. And then the kids being able to hear them, because in the beginning it was like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And they start hitting their helmets and it starts working and all those type of things. So we've gotten through all that stuff now. So now we know what we're doing. So I'm excited for it and ready to see how it works on game day.
And then lastly, just balancing between this being another game versus just soaking in the moment, because these guys are going to talk about this game 10, 20 years after they're done playing. How much do you balance that between the message of we're playing week one, this is it, versus we're playing in Michigan, you're going to remember this game for the rest of your life?
You always bring that up, but we have to be in the moment. We're in the moment right now. And this is the first game of the season. It's more about all our hard work, blood, sweat, and tears paying off for us. That's what we're thinking right now. And we have to get our mind right on going out there and giving them the best fight we can ever give them. So that's where we're at right now, doing everything we can to possibly come out of there with a victory. We know it's going to be a battle. We know they're the defending champs. We know it's going to be a game everybody's going to remember, but we're staying in the moment right now.
Coach, I just asked Coach Skipper about this, but the green dot now being part of the college football level and working with those guys, how's it been adjusting to now having the ability to talk to the defensive player on the field before the play?
Well, to me, there's a distinct difference between college and the NFL. The NFL, the offense huddles every play. In college, very seldom do teams huddle, although Michigan has huddled in the past. With that being said, you have to be able to have both the dot, the helmet communicator available to get information to them, but also the traditional signaling will play a part in most games as you watch it because of the fact that teams are on the ball most of the time. And so we've worked it. Like Skip said, I was the one struggling to try to find which button and hitting the wrong ones and turning everything off. But now we kind of got it sorted out. And it helps because you can give some tips. Not only give the defense, you can say, hey, this is a screen down, this is alert for empty formation, whatever, the situation that comes up. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out during the course of the year. But, I think early on, we got to rely on all the things that we've always done.
No bigger test of it than at Michigan, though, right?
Well, yeah. The good thing is, though, I think we're going to have the ability to communicate, whereas it's going to be a little harder for the offense when their crowd starts to get loud when we have the ball. But hopefully we'll be able to talk and get things communicated on defense.
Coach, going through your depth chart here, there's a lot of guys on the second team that you've talked highly about over the course of camp. Just curious how much of a role some of these guys can have, how you balance keeping your best 11 on the field while also rewarding some guys like Kosi and Phoenix. And
Oh, sure. Well, especially early in the year, the fact that it's not rewarding so much, it's guys that have earned their spots. And if you're in the two deep, you're going to have an opportunity to play, particularly up front. We always have rotated our down linemen, but we have depth at some other areas now that we feel very confident in, that we'll be able to get more players on the field, get them more game experience here early in the season in particular, and keep guys fresh as we go along. So that's all going to be a big part of it. So I like where our depth is, and hopefully when guys' numbers are called, they're going to step up and do the job that we need them to do.
As far as what you've been able to gather from Michigan's O-line, how does that compare to anything you guys have seen since you got here?
Well, they're big, they're athletic, they're strong, they're outstanding. They've lost some players, but they've replaced them with some outstanding players. We're talking about a very, very talented group and a very well-coached group. It'll be the best offensive line we probably have ever played.
And what's your feeling about how your D-line can handle that?
We're going to find out. We're going to get after it and see what happens.
How's it going, Coach?
Great.
What extra emphasis have you been putting on it now, going into this last week of practice, going into Michigan? What extra stuff have you been, working on to prepare them for the game? Has it been the run stop, pass defense? What extra work have you been doing leading into the game?
Well, when all opening games, you have to prepare for things that they're going to do or think that they're going to do, but also stuff that might come up in the ball game that you haven't seen them do a lot of, and that's the difficult thing about an opening game. But it's also fun. As a coach, you got to make sure your team is prepared for anything that might happen. Coaching is eliminating mistakes before they happen, not after they happen. So hopefully we give them all these different looks during the course of training camp and spring ball so that they can rely on their training when they get out in the game. If they see something that they haven't practiced against, they're able to do it. In the case of these guys, obviously, their strength has always been running the football. They've got a very good offensive line. They've got excellent backs. And we anticipate that that's what they're going to do in terms of hanging their hat on their offense and running the football. But they can throw. They got outstanding receivers. All these quarterbacks, although they don't have a lot of game experience at Michigan, are extremely talented players. So we've got to hit everything during the course of the week. The other thing that they do that makes it more difficult is they use a tremendous amount of variation in terms of their groupings, their offensive groupings. They go from multiple tight ends to opened up, empty sets. So you're dealing with a lot in terms of getting prepared for. So it's a challenge for us.
For sure. And obviously you've had your defensive playbook that you've been using with the kids from all through camp and through all the scrimmages and stuff like that. Have you implemented any new type of plays, any new packages or anything leading into Michigan the more closely you get to the game?
Yes, a lot of them. We're going to hang our hat on what we've done, but certainly we're going to have some things that we haven't shown. We do that every year, whether it was Michigan or whoever. But it's always good to, they have had a year to get a good book on us as we have on them. We've seen every game they've played last year and games that they played years before. So we don't want to go into it and not have things that they may have some questions about early on. So that's always the challenge. That's always part of the fun of game planning.
On what extra emphasis do you utilize in trying to prepare them for competition of this size? Because this is probably going to be the fastest, the biggest that they've ever had to compete against for their careers. So with that, I mean, what extra stuff do you do? Is it extra conditioning? Is it extra time in the film room? Whatever. What extra stuff do you do in order to prepare for competition of that level?
It's not really extra stuff. I mean, what we do is we have one way of preparing for everybody, and we talk to our players. It's more about us and our execution than it is about anybody else. If we execute at the very best level we can execute and perform that way, we'll see how things shake out. We have to get lined up correctly. We have to communicate. We have to be fundamentally sound. We got to tackle these guys. These are outstanding runners and receivers. So it comes back to fundamentals and us being in the right place. And if we can get our guys that way throughout the game, then we'll give ourselves a fighting chance. But you can't beat yourself in a game like this. You can't give up explosive plays. You've got to make them earn every yard that they're going to gain.
Coach Coyle, over here.
Yes.
How difficult has it been to scout their quarterback, considering they haven't named a starter, and the guy that they have filmed from the last 2 years, he's in the NFL now. So
yeah,
how difficult has it been to scout
that
them?
NFL player is a pretty good player. We've seen a lot of him. But it's difficult because, you don't have the body of work that you normally have on a quarterback going into the game. But with that being said, we still, can kind of get an idea of what their core plays are, what they might do with someone that's more of a running type quarterback as opposed to a drop back passer. They have it all. The guy that just left could do it all. He could throw out of the pocket. He could go on the run. He can bootleg. He can sprint out. They did everything. So, we're exposing our guys to all those things and just going to wait and see who the guy is and just adjust as the game goes on.
And then they have a tight end who's a preseason All-American, Colston Loveland. How does he hurt defenses, and how do you game plan for a guy like that?
He's outstanding. He is number 18. He's a outstanding receiving tight end. They deploy him all over the field. He lines up at split end by himself. He lines up as a tight end in the core of the offense. He lines up to the trip side where he's number 1, number 2, or number 3. So they try to utilize him and get matchups that they like that way. And he's got excellent hands, and he's very good run after the catch. He's a big target. We've seen a lot of him on tape. There's not one thing you can say to do to stop a guy like that, but multiple different. We have things in the plan that we'll try to get to if the situation warrants it. But it's not one guy. They've got multiple threats throughout their offense, so it makes it tough that way. And the fact that they move him as much as they do makes it even harder.
Coach, the secondary seems pretty experienced with the 1s and 2s on here. How would you say preparation has been to get ready for those Michigan receivers?
Good. I think our guys, the veteran guys, have had a really good camp. They're studying extremely hard. A lot of these receivers are also new in terms of they lost some guys, but a lot of them have played, and then some of the guys that have transferred in are also guys that we've heard a lot about. Again, I keep coming back to the same thing that it's not typical as you get later in the season where you just can watch 4 or 5 games on their crew of guys that are in the game. We know that they're going to utilize a lot of receivers. There's a lot of 3 receiver sets. There's a lot of 2 receiver sets. Excuse me, but they're probably 3 deep at every receiver spot that they'll utilize those guys in the game. And I think they're also, like we are, going to try to find out who the game guys are, you guys that show up in the games that really perform when the lights are on. So, I think we're more inclined to be identifying schemes and offensive plays and structure more than we are a particular receiver right now.
A lot of excitement and buzz about Corey Foreman coming into the program. How have you seen him really be able to mesh and learn this defense that you said is so difficult to learn?
Well, he's still learning, but he's working at it very hard, and he gives us an outstanding talent, a playmaker. I think he'll have a very important role as we go into the season, and will continue to grow throughout the season. There's a lot that he can do. He's very versatile, and we're thrilled to have him. He's still working hard every day to make sure he understands things. Coach Franklin does a great job working with him, and I know he's going to be real excited come Saturday night.
Preparation-wise, has anything changed when it comes to stopping the run compared to kind of what the plan was last year to where you guys are at now, getting ready for obviously a really tough offensive team?
Yeah, we didn't stop the run as well as we needed to last year. If we had an Achilles heel on defense, it was during that 3-game stretch where we lost later in the year. It was stopping the run. So we made an emphasis of that right from the get-go in the wintertime, back when we came out in spring practice. So if we can try to neutralize their run game, they're one of the best rushing teams in the country, and there's a reason for it. They're very, very good up front, obviously, and they've got outstanding running backs. So our work is cut out for us. But like I said earlier, we'll have some things that we can try to do, both schematically and structurally within the defense, that we've got to do better than what we did last year, and do a great job of tackling and getting off blocks, the fundamental things that you need to do to stop the run. So we're going to have to tackle really well in the secondary, and that's going to be a big factor for us.
Coach, when you're facing a team that likes to control the line of scrimmage, time of possession, rather than just stop them, do you feel a need to, hey, we got to get the ball back?
Certainly. I mean, we would be very, very happy to be sitting on the bench watching our offense Saturday night. But we know that the turnover battle, as we say each week, is going to be critical. We're going to have to take the ball away. We're going to have to try to get them behind schedule in order to get into third downs where we feel we can utilize some of the things that we do very well on third down against them. So that's all going to come into play. But getting the ball back, and like you mentioned, they're a methodical team. They're not in a hurry like some teams that we play. Now, as I say that, they could come out and no huddle and race up and down the field on Saturday. But we see that every day in practice. We go against that type of offense. We see no huddle stuff all the time. So they kind of slow the game down and play to their advantage, play to their defense, and just keep pounding and grinding on you. So we're going to have to do a good job of finding ways to get drive stops and get off the field.
I was curious if you saw Lavelle Bailey's pick 6 yesterday and your thoughts on that.
I did. The guys in the office told me about it, and so I went online and watched it, and I texted him last night, and I woke up this morning, and he had replied, and he was pretty excited about that, and we're excited for him.
Hey, Coach. Just curious, we've heard a lot of talk about Cam Braca, maybe him stepping up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can speak to that a little bit, and also, are there some other players that you've seen that have made significant jumps, maybe some key guys that you're looking forward to seeing how that translates to a game?
Yeah, well, Cam played very well for us last year as a newcomer. He's going to have a a similar role to what he had last year. He's a very good player, very tenacious, plays extremely hard. He's a leader, flies around the field, communicates great, very smart. Having him and Dean back there together, they, sometimes when you get great chemistry among, especially in the secondary, it's similar to the offensive line in that respect. When you have guys that have worked together, AZ's played a lot, Cam Lockridge has played a lot, they develop knowledge of each other. It's almost like a basketball team. You know where that guy's going to be, and without saying it. So they are very, very in sync that way. So he's done a very good job. Other guys that we've talked about a little bit, Phoenix Jackson has had a really good camp. We're excited about him. Jason Jacks has come along really strong here during camp at the defensive end spot. So there's a lot of guys that I think Ezra Christensen in the defensive line has stepped up. So you could go right across the board. Kosi Agina has really come back, and I think he's going to contribute big time for us. So there's a lot of guys that have earned their right to be out there on the field, and hopefully that'll be a great thing for our depth as we go forward.
Have you coached at Michigan?
I've never coached. I've been there. I've been to visit them years ago, talk defense with their coaches. Coach Jim Herman is a great friend of mine. He was a defensive coordinator there for a long time. But I go back to the Bo Schemblecker days, watching Woody Hayes and Bo, in late November. I mean, those are great memories as a kid. And I was good friends with Gary Moeller when he took over, and Lloyd Carr was a great friend of mine. So I've been following Michigan football for a long time. It's one of the great programs in all the country.
And then just one quick final question. I'm just curious because you were saying that this has been like an 8-month process looking at Michigan. Do you feel like you almost know their offense better than maybe they do at this point?
Well, you always go into the first game feeling like you have a pretty good handle on an opponent. The difficulty about this particular team is that there are a lot of newcomers on their offense, and the quarterback situation being, I won't call it unsettled, but it's not certain like it has been. So how they implement their scheme with the quarterbacks, whoever plays in the game, it'll be the first time that we're seeing it. So, but as far as us knowing what they've done in the past, I feel really good about that. Now, stopping it is a whole nother ball of wax right here. But we're going to know if they stay true to form, we'll be able to anticipate some things. And the players will, because the players have extra time. We've gone through many teach sessions, even during training camp, where you don't necessarily tell them these are Michigan plays, but they are Michigan plays that you sprinkle in so that they see those and they get extra reps on them. But they're plays that everybody else runs too. You follow me? So we'll see. I feel good about it.
Having lost multiple starters on the line this offseason, how important has the portal been with building back the D-line?
For us on the D-line?
Yes.
Well, not very. We haven't added a lot of defensive linemen from the portal. I mean, Corey came in, and I guess DJ Lafitte has come in from both those guys from SC, and we're pleased about them. But I'm trying to think. I think we're in pretty good shape as far as the depth of guys that we currently have on the roster from that standpoint. So we're going to go to battle with the guys we have, and hopefully that's a big part of what we do here. We try to develop our players, and fortunately we've been able to retain a lot of our good players here.
You touched on Corey Foreman. He's the highest rated transfer coming into Fresno State. What work has been done to get him to return to his dominant form?
To his dominant form? I think he's being coached by one of the best defensive line coaches that I've ever been around, Coach Franklin. He's a guy that when you have a very talented guy like that, sometimes you have to really coach them hard in terms of the technique that we expect and the discipline that we expect, and not allow somebody to kind of freelance a little bit. So he's hearing that every day from everybody, and he's learning that way and getting better each and every day. So I think that's part of the process there. If he fundamentally continues to improve, he's going to have a great career here.
And you get Michigan first game. How excited are you to have this tough of a matchup right out of the gate?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, you can't. There's one team in the country that gets to play the defending national champs on opening day, and opening day is always exciting. You love it, but to be able to go into that atmosphere, that stadium, it's one of the most iconic stadiums in the world. Not only in our country, it's just, it's really incredible. And for our guys to experience that, and our coaches to be able to coach in that atmosphere, it's going to be something that we all remember, and we're just excited about the chance to do it.
Coach, remember sitting here last year and having you explain how Charles earned the Trigger nickname and how much he endeared himself to you and the staff. What can you tell us about how he's doing and emotionally what that's like for you guys as a staff with someone who obviously you love so much?
Yeah, he's old Trigger's a special guy, and when he got hurt the other day, we all were praying that it wasn't anything serious, and when you watch the tape, I just had a glimmer of hope because it didn't look like a typical bad knee injury. His foot kind of seemed like it slipped out a little bit, and you could tell there was something wrong, but I was praying that it was just a sprain and he was going to be okay. And then when we found out, when you lose a guy like that, his role on the team from the numbers of snaps he plays in a game might not seem all that big in the statistics, but he just adds so much as a leader, as a person that the rest of the younger players learn from in terms of how to do it the Bulldog way. His special teams value with Coach Baxter, his knowledge. He's so smart. He keeps Jethro in line, telling Jethro what to do all the time. But he's a guy that we've talked already. We're going to keep him as involved as we can. After he gets his surgery, we're going to give him a role here on the staff, working with our guys. I think he has an idea that he may like to get into coaching. Tried to discourage him about that, but no, he's talked about wanting to be a coach, and we're going to give him that opportunity, and then he's going to have to make a decision if he wants to come back again. When we've already talked a little bit about that, but it's going to take some time for him to think about that. But he is a beautiful young man that exemplifies Fresno State football and achieving more than people really notice on the outside. And we're just very sad for him, but we know he'll find a way to make a contribution this year in some way, and he'll make a difference.
All right, Coach. I know Michigan's listening, so this is just slightly tongue-in-cheek. But, Coach Skipper, when he played here, got to sit on the sideline a long time because the offense chewed up clock and played keep away from the opposition. And then he coached the running backs here for a while and coached some really good running backs. So should we expect the run-pass balance to shift a little bit now that Coach Skipper's in charge?
I wouldn't necessarily associate it with Coach Skip being in charge. I think the thing going back and kind of studying ourselves last year is there's certain areas we got to improve on, and running the ball better is part of it. We talked about a lot this offseason. We got to run the ball better to run it more. so that's kind of been the main point of emphasis in regards to that. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to think that we're going to run the ball better over the course of the 2024 season, yes. And yes, that goes hand in hand with Coach Skip being in charge.
And obviously the O-line will have a lot to do with that. How have you felt about the offensive line through camp, and what's your challenge to them for Saturday night?
I think the challenge of them is just playing with confidence because, I've been encouraged with that group, in particular that first group, and then trying to identify, kind of who the next guys in are. But that's the biggest challenge for them is just playing with confidence because they've done a really nice job. They've committed really to running the ball better, and they take the protecting the quarterback piece really serious. And so I think that's the main thing. We got to protect our confidence. At some point, somebody's going to get beat up front. They're really good up front on defense, and making sure that getting beat once or twice doesn't derail from a confidence factor with those guys.
And Mikey got off to a great start last year. I mean, you guys were unbelievable in non-conference. But are there some different expectations you have for him with a new season? Some things that should look different to us because he's got more experience?
Yes and no. Mikey came in last year and executed at a really high level. Just as far as a little bit of it was. Us kind of playing to his strengths and what he's most comfortable with. And we've talked about it a lot, over the course of the year. There's certain things that maybe opportunities missed, and so maybe that will look different where, maybe we were trying to push the ball downfield and take shots and maybe the ball didn't necessarily get thrown that way. So I think that might be maybe some growth areas, for him. But at the same time, we're going to build around the quarterback. That's what it comes down to is a good offense, good pass game is going to build around the quarterback and what they do best. So I don't know if it necessarily will look different, in that regard, because he came in, he played really efficiently, really over the course of the whole year.
How have you been able to incorporate the wide receiver transfers, Raylan Sharp and Chaden James, into the Bulldog offense?
I think if you look over really over an extended period of time, but just at least, for the last 2 years that I've been here, we're probably, I forget the exact numbers, but we've got 4, 5, 6 guys that are heavy contributors out of that room consistently. And, we lose Eric Brooks, who's, right now he's injured, but playing up in the CFL. And you got Jalen Gill playing down with the Chargers right now. We lost 2 NFL receivers or professional receivers from last year's team. A lot of where those guys fit in the system was kind of the natural skill set that Raylan and Chaden bring. So they've done a really nice job, though. To their credit, they've both they're football guys. Like, they are here for a purpose as far as the football side of things, and they've picked up the system really well. And they just kind of have like an it factor when it comes to just getting it, and the quarterbacks are comfortable with them. So really, it's just kind of almost like plug and play in some of the same roles that maybe you've seen other guys in the past.
Morning, Coach. We know about Gilliam and Sherrod, obviously, but who do you see filling in that sort of RB3 role?
I think just in general, you're going to see a little bit of a committee after Malik. Jonathan Arsenault had a really good spring and had a good camp. And Bryson Donaldson's probably in that mix too. He'll factor in. How much he factors in early, we'll see. But he is again, kind of like the transfer receivers. He's done an excellent job, really committed to learning the stuff. And you don't really know, it's like in a good way, you don't notice he's in there, like as far as protection goes, stuff like that. It's not like there's glaring things where he just misses blitzes and stuff like that. So he's probably in the mix to be in that conversation as well.
Last year, you spent the majority of the time up in the booth. Then for the bowl game, you were down on the field, and we talked about that a little bit. But do you expect yourself to do that again, or what do you see yourself doing this season?
So I can't stand being in the press box. And there's an element of, yes, you see it really well up there, but I just felt like I could affect the game from the sideline a little bit better, and that's why I did it for the bowl game. And then I got down in the bowl game, and I was like, man, I missed this. And my wife, she had a picture of me on the sideline. She was like, I could tell you were loving it. She's like, you're never going back, are you? I was like, nope, I'm not. So, no, I think my main thing is I trust the guys that are up top for me, like as far as being able to kind of have eyes on what they need to have eyes on. I feel comfortable with the guys doing that. So that'll be the plan moving forward.
If we would have told you 2 seasons ago you'd be calling the plays against the defending national champions at the Big House, what would you have said then?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have believed you, but yeah, feel blessed to have the opportunity.
Coach, just going to follow up about that. Sideline versus booth. At the Big House, 105,000 or whatever it is that even more important maybe to be on the sideline, in that kind of environment to kind of have that personal touch during a game?
I think there's a lot of things that go into the benefit of me being down there. I think one thing is just it's not going to go perfect, and just being able to, whether it's be the, whether you call it a calming presence or, just being able to look guys in the eye and talk to them. And at the end of the day, like with the communication stuff and all that, I think that, for me, it helps me to be down there. And I think it's probably less necessarily the environment and more just making sure that, just really being able to communicate directly with guys.
How much does the experience, because this feels like a pretty experienced group, you guys didn't lose a lot in the offseason, especially at the important positions, right, especially offensively. How important is that experience and having success at Purdue last year? It's not apples to apples, but a Big Ten environment, just carrying that into this game and that experience into this game.
When you look back at that Purdue game, I believe we went 3 and out our first 2 possessions. I believe we went down 14-0 at one point. Then they returned the opening kick to start the second half, 28-17. To follow that, we went 3 and out. And I just think that's kind of, when you look over the course of the season, UNLV, huge game. We go into half 17-7. We come out and score 24 points in the third quarter. Moments like that create a no-flinch attitude with our guys. And I think that's where you see the experience is that, we have a saying that we say it all the time of, so what, now what? Like something happens, like, so what? Like now what are we going to do? And so, we talk about that a lot as an offense about refocusing, but that's good or bad. So I think that's really where you see the experience kind of kick in is you can even hear it on our sideline if something's not going well or whatever, is kind of like, hey, man, we're good. Like, relax, we're good, And so I think that's really where the experience factor kicks in.
And then Coach Skip kind of mentioned that Josiah maybe, week to week or his status uncertain. I know you mentioned to me Lyndon Rivar, like, during camp. Who are you expecting maybe if Josiah can't go to maybe see a bigger role in this game?
Yeah, I think that, just kind of like looking at the 2 deep, and there's guys like, Jordan Brown is another guy that he's not necessarily listed on the 2 deep just because of the position he plays, and there's only so many guys we can put there. But, I would say that, you're going to see a steady dose of Mac and Jalen Moss and Raylan Chaden. And, I think Lyndon's going to, at some point he's going to get some opportunities. And Nate Acevedo's another guy that's had a really good camp. So, the cool part when you look at that receiver room is, maybe 4 or 5 months ago I was a little concerned about the depth, and now I feel a lot better about the depth as far as just kind of where guys are at and the confidence that they're playing with and the mentality.
Coach, what has Jaden Mandel shown you throughout fall camp to earn that backup spot behind Mikey?
Jaden has really progressed from a year ago at this time where he was just trying to make sure that he ran the plays correctly and read it correctly. And then in the spring, he was doing a great job as far as he was on time with stuff. He was reading everything right, but maybe missed some throws. He's been very accurate during camp. He's made good decisions. A big part of our deal is, quarterbacks as far as decision making, really even outside the pocket. We've got scramble rules specific to the quarterback, and he's done a great job as far as really taking care of the ball. So it's just been a lot of growth. That's kind of that you hope for from a quarterback. It's not necessarily the wow stuff as much as the consistency.
When it comes to the O-line, a lot of experience, bigger guys up front there. What can you say kind of about the protection that Mikey's been able to get throughout fall camp, especially getting ready for a Michigan line?
Well, in a good way, but not good way. In a good way, our defensive line's been pretty good, and they've made it hard on them. Like they've prepared our guys well. I would like to think that our defensive line's going to be pretty good over the course of the season this year, and so that's been great from a preparation standpoint for us. They've done a good job protecting. We see a lot of different stuff from our defense during fall camp, which kind of prepares us as well for a variety of different pressures and defensive line stunts, stuff like that. So they've done a good job, and then it's kind of one of those, like, even when you lose in practice, you learn something because we're seeing so many different things from our guys.
We talk about all the time that's been leading up to this Michigan game, obviously, through the spring, fall camp, through the summer here. How prepared are you feeling when it comes to blocking plays?
I feel a lot more comfortable. I think just the staff being intact offensively. I think I feel good about the continuity there. I think that one of the big things we talk about, kind of play call purpose, and really the quarterbacks, not just Mikey, but the quarterbacks understanding, what we're looking for with certain calls, stuff like that. I'm able to communicate that maybe better to them now, maybe than I was a year ago. And then I spent a lot of time studying myself, in the off season and evaluating, really me as a play caller. I spent a lot of time on that part of it. Because I want to make sure that I'm growing. It's not just kind of what's the direction of the offense, but what am I doing better? So, yeah, I would just say overall comfort level is just a year of experience higher for sure.
Angelique mentioned the build-up to this game. We've been talking about it since last season ended. How many times have family and friends asked you about this game over the last 12 months, let's say?
A lot. And to me, yes, this is the opportunity's phenomenal and everything. But I've heard a lot about it, and I have had to remind people that hey, we're trying to win the Mountain West Championship and beyond. There's 12 of these things we're trying to win. But yeah, there's been a lot of build up to this one for sure.
And with Mikey Keene, what do you want to see from him on Saturday to put Fresno State in the best chance to pull off an upset?
We got to take care of the ball. We got to take care of the football. Like, that's the first and foremost. I think that, what they do on defense provides and poses certain challenges. And so I think as long as we can just make sure that we can get the ball out on time, and a lot of it's just throw and catch. We got to make the quarterback better, on the perimeter, and we got, it's an 11-man game, In basketball, you can go draft LeBron James. You're going to go to the playoffs regardless of who you put around him. It's 11-man, sport. 22 guys on the field. So I think it's one of those things that, for us, we just got to make sure that we support the quarterback the way we need to support him.
How's it going, Coach?
Good. How are you?
Obviously, with Skipper coming in from Tedford, obviously Tedford's imprint on the playbook has been evident, but from that moment until now through camps and scrimmages, how much is your identity within the offense now?
So I've kind of shared this before, but Coach Tedford was like a coaching idol of mine. And so being here, I came in expecting, one thing, and he's the best leader I'd ever been around and super empowering. And so he probably, while his handprints, yes, were on it, he didn't sit in on offensive staff meetings ever. He didn't come in and he didn't come in and force things on us. You know, he would come in and suggest things, and then he'd come in the next day and go, "Hey, so what made it?" Where his genius was as far as the game plan stuff was really factored in on making sure that things were sound and coming in and you know, hey, why are we protecting it this way? Why are we blocking? What are we telling the tight end on this? You know, because he had the best ability to anticipate problems I've ever seen. And so where I would just say is, you know, as far as kind of the impact or the influence, we are who we are. You know, like we got a system that we believe in and that works. And, you know, ultimately that's the most important part about it, you know, and Coach Skip's been very empowering as well. You know, but like I just look back at, you know, the influence that Coach Tedford had. You know, he never wanted us to be looking over our shoulder, like he was telling us what to do and how to do our jobs, and he had his input, and he was very involved. It wasn't like he was like, you know, totally hands off, but he wanted the rest of the staff to be able to, you know, speak their voice and not feel like, oh man, the head coach is in the room all the time. And so that's, you know, again, we've got a system we believe in and operate that way, and I wouldn't say a lot's changed in that regard. Yeah, even the guys that we replaced, you know, when you look at, you know, maybe some of the receiver transfer or whatever, they've all experienced college football players, and so you know, it is pretty cool to be able to communicate with those guys, you know, from a standpoint of they're prepared, they know what to expect. You're not worried about the moment being too big for them, you know, so that's definitely helpful. But at the end of the day, we're Fresno State, you know. Anybody, anytime, anywhere. You know, that's a real thing here. You know, so our guys won't be rattled regardless. You know, but definitely having the experience back, that's obviously a perk.
In terms of building on what we said right there in terms of preparation, what extra type of preparation have been emphasized on this week going into Michigan? Are you practicing more on the run game, the passing game, anything like that in regards for Saturday's game?
I think it's just like any other first game of the season. You have more time to prepare. You know, essentially most of the game plan's been in for a week now. We've been basically on Michigan for a week. We're at a point now where it's more refining than anything. You have to guard against what I actually spent this morning taking plays out, not adding more plays, just because, you know, you spend all off season and it's like it's very easy, but at the end of the day, that game plan can get really unmanageable from a call sheet standpoint when you keep going, oh, this could be good, this could be good, this could be good. You know, so I wouldn't say it's extra stuff. You know, it's more about making sure that what we go into the game with is the right stuff. You know, more than maybe extra preparation. It's making sure that the players have the right stuff to give them the best chance to be successful.
Hey, Coach, I know you mentioned earlier you've been studying, you know, in the off season. What's the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself and play calling, you know, from I guess last season coming into this season that you're hoping to implement?
Without divulging too much, you know, I think the main thing would just be really just kind of situational calls and making sure that just you know, whether it's being more balanced in certain situations. Having a plan maybe for certain situations that doesn't just revolve around, you know, really trying to, you know, whether it's, you know, trying to get certain guys the ball, like that's one thing is, you know, sometimes you get really focused on, I got to get, you know, this player the ball, or sometimes you lose sight of getting a certain player the ball, you know, so just really trying to make sure that you know, just is the plan right for the situation, you know, that's probably the main point of emphasis.
Coach, could you just give a general scouting report of Michigan's defense? Anyone in particular that catches your eye or an area?
Where do you want me to start? I'll start with the up front guys. Those two defensive tackles are really good. They're both really good. You know, the defensive ends. You know, number 8 he really stands out to me just as far as he does a great job, as far as setting edges. He's big, he's physical, he doesn't really back down from anything. And I think the most impressive part about their defensive line is, those D tackles, they're big, but they can be every down players for them. They can rush the passer just as well as they stop the run, and they're disruptive. The linebackers, they've got some transfers. They got a guy from Maryland that, he's a good player. He's violent. He does a great job getting the ball out when he gets to it. We got to protect the football against these guys. They do an excellent job as a defense as far as like knocking the ball out, whether it's putting their face on it or whether it's punching it out. They do a really good job with that. In the secondary, the corner, number 2, Will Johnson. He'll be a first-round pick, I believe. And he's a real guy. The corner opposite him, there's a couple of different guys that will end up playing for him there. They're pretty good too. And then the safeties, they got a transfer from Tennessee that, he's dynamic, and again, just the best word I can use for him is disruptive. Can cover a lot of ground. And then number 7, the other safety, he's a good player. He played a ton of football for him, and so they do have a lot of experience there. So even if it's not necessarily experience at Michigan, they've got a lot of experience on that side of the ball.
Tracking week 0, some of the other Mountain West coaches expressed some frustration or some hiccups with the in-helmet communication. Just curious if you've heard any feedback and if you have to deploy some plan Bs during the week.
No, so with the in-helmet stuff, basically what we've done is we've operated like we've got our system in place, and we did not necessarily overhaul anything. And then there's even stuff where, maybe certain times where I could tap into the quarterback, but I'll purposely not sometimes just to make sure that we practice. He's got to go over and he's got to get the information the way that he used to. I think that one of the things that probably happened or is gonna happen in college football is you better have some version of your old system in place, because if stuff does happen, it's like you see some of these teams that were no huddle. Well, now they're huddled to the max. Well, you better have your signal system ready to still signal in those plays and stuff like that. So we've tried to practice the contingencies of not having that. And it's a great benefit, it's awesome, and we'll use it more so almost like tips and reminders for the quarterback more than anything. It's not like we're relying on that, and so I think it's been cool, but at the same time, we got to make sure that we're prepared for that to have some issues.
Gotcha. And you've got Kingsley and Torian listed at left tackle. If you could share what the status is there and how that's going.
They're both going to play. They both will. They both done a good job. They both earned the right to play. And, I think that I'm excited to see both of them because they're both going to get their opportunities. And, I would say it's an earned thing more than that not one guy's hasn't won the job. It's probably more of an earned thing that, both of them have deserved the right to get to play.
Coach, Jalen Moss had a pretty good season for his freshman campaign last year. Now he's going to be kind of a big focal point of defenses coming into this year. What are your expectations out of Jalen here now he's coming into second year of his action?
Jalen has done a really good job. Just the maturity of not even necessarily physically, but just his overall maturity. When we get some extended time off, at the end of school or whatever, I'll call him and check it. I'll just call the guys and check in on them, and you're having real adult conversations with Jalen Moss, where before it was, he was still growing up, and so I think that off the field maturity is showing up on the field. He takes care of himself differently. He's physically matured a lot. He's up around 180 pounds now, and he just looks different. So I'm excited to see his growth because he's one of the most intuitive, kind of heady players we've got probably on the whole team. He gets football at a really high level. So I'm excited to see his growth.
And then on Mikey's, progression from year one here being at Fresno State, of course, he kind of was fighting for a starting job. Now he's got a whole off season here where he kind of knows he's the guy. What has been changed in his demeanor from this off season as opposed to getting prepped for Purdue last year?
The most important part with Mikey, I would say, is just the growth and ability to lead in different ways. Where last year he was trying to win over the guys. And he's a great dude. He's very encouraging. Now you're seeing a side of him where if he needs to hold guys accountable, he holds them accountable. Like this morning, I mean, he had a voluntary meeting with there was the other quarterbacks, and it was most of the receivers that are traveling. That was, we didn't tell him to do it. He just did it. And so last year he always met with Eric Brooks. Like every Monday, him and Eric Brooks were going to be in the office watching film together. He had a meeting. I mean, they had donuts in there. I mean, it was like a full-on deal. I walked in. I didn't even know they were in there. I walked in. I'm like, yeah. So I think that's where you're starting to see just kind of, it's not just trying to win them over, but like now it's like, hey, what level can we take this to? But I think he's able to hold guys accountable if guys aren't lined up fast enough or lined up right or what. You start to see some growth in that area too.
And then lastly, obviously, with the guys coming in like Chaden and Raylan and those guys, how quickly does it take to build in-game chemistry with those guys when they are playing real game reps versus what we've been doing this whole offseason of them getting reps in practice?
I think that our guys do such a good job in the summer on their own, like as far as the player run practices. And then when you factor in the just the way our guys compete and stuff in practice, I think that we practice a certain style of way. They just do it a certain way, and I think that helps us come game time because I've been around places that don't necessarily do what we do in the summer, and they don't practice with the same intensity during fall camp, and so I think that helps the game part of it. But there's no substitute necessarily for actual game reps, but they've kind of done their part, kind of all parties included as far as getting to this point. So, I look at what Nico Remigio did in his first game 2 years ago, and you look at Jalen Gill. I think he had 8 catches for something for whatever last year in his first game, and so I think guys they do acclimate. And I attribute that to the work our guys do such a good job in the summer on their own, and then in fall camp.